human experimentation, my favorite part of Genshin Impact. Version 4.6 dropped us a very interesting part of the Fatui's plan, and this is known as Project Stuzha. Now, what this project is isn't confirmed, and that's what we're doing today. Welcome to What is Project Stuzha, where I get to theorize about my favorite part of Genshin lore, children experimentation. Disclaimer, everything here is just a theory and nothing is indicative of the final product. So let's start with everything that we know. Project Stuzha, or Project Severe Winter, or Project Cold, was first name dropped in 4.6 by Talia during Arlecchino's story quest. Talia mentions that he was being told to work on this project alongside Rick Rader, something that he dreads because he doesn't want to listen to Rick Rader's monologues. We don't have other points to go off on, except that according to Linny, Project Stuzha will also involve the Rooster and the House of the Hearth, stating that because the house was successful in obtaining the Gnosis, they will have the honor of playing a key role in this new project. Arlecchino agrees that the diplomats are putting the house in a very dangerous position, but because they're funding majority of the expenses of the house, she is in no position to refute. Linny states that Project Stuzha is a way to subdue the House of the Hearth, because the house is technically an independent body that the Harbingers, sans Arlecchino, aren't in direct control over. It's dangerous to have them running around, especially since they're an intelligence network. While this is the first time Project Stuzha was mentioned by name, I theorize that this has something to do with two very important voice lines that we've encountered in the past. First is with Dainsleep in Tartalia's character Miscellany. Dane refers to Tartalia as the weapon of the Tsaritsa, and that there's about to be an icy storm that's starting to blow towards the other nations, and that Tivat is about to get cold. This is also exemplified by Tartalia and the Tsaritsa herself, stating that there is a desire to burn the old world away, and that in the future, the traveler will have to withstand a new bitter cold brought about by the Harbingers. However, there's another line that can give us a bit more context about what the Fatui propaganda is. The House of the Hearth member, Katarina Snezhna, mentions that all the people in Snezhnaya have been warned of an inescapable long night and a common enemy, and that everything they do now is in preparation of that. My personal speculation is that this ties in with the Abyss, in which the Fatui are anticipating the Abyss to bleed into Tivat somehow, someway, and cover the sky with stars. Now, let's fill in the blanks. It's important to note that the notable figures for Project Stuzha aren't the higher-ups of the Fatui, which is leading me to believe that this isn't the end-all be-all final plan of the Harbingers, but rather a human-centric approach to their final goal. I'd say that Project Stuzha is one of the Harbingers' projects to prepare themselves, and I also don't think they'd entrust the final winter burning the world plan logistically to their newest member without some sort of caveat. My theory is that Project Stuzha is meant to create super soldiers that can last this mysterious endless night. This is done by mixing Archon residue with abyssal energy, then putting them into a child so that the Harbingers can now have an entire army of younger, easy to manipulate catalysts that are not only impervious to abyssal energy, but are also enhanced beyond the regular Fatui member. So let's begin with this kind of theory. I want to turn to another human experiment that was mentioned in the lore of Genshin, and that is the Taurus project with the Archon residue. Basically, the first ever story beat in Genshin Impact that was revealed to the public is a child literally dying to some tentacle monster. What a great tone setter. And this is one of the Tauri and his branch's many experiments. Taking from that, my first speculation about Project Stuzha is that similar to the Rooster and the Rick Rader, Tartalia's role is that he is the primary test subject, but he's also an overseer that's, meant to quality control, sure. As cruel as it may be, a part of me thinks that Tartalia's job is to weed out the weak, similar to how in the final parts of the Taurus experiments, his researchers force the children to fight to see the effectiveness of the new power. Now, normally I'd say Tartalia would be against this had this been literal children. But remember, the House of the Hearth is already composed of young adults and late teens. At some point, Tartalia's mercy can only go so far, especially since these aren't exactly innocent bystanders, but rather, the House of the Hearth are trained intelligence gatherers, assassins, and fighters. It wouldn't be out of the question for Tartalia to be the muscle of this operation by pushing these test subjects to their limits. I also think that Talia will be used as a proof of concept. He's the best embodiment right now of a younger vessel having several power sources and using them effectively against combat. And we know that the Fatui already have plans with researching abyssal energies for their own benefit, even sending their own harbingers to deal with these kinds of matters. So I don't doubt that Project Stuzha could have something to do with the Endless Night. I theorize that the children with the most potential, or even a vision, will be taken in as the key figures of the project, then trained under Talia to hone their new powers. Now, why the House of the Hearth? Well, it's a political move. Similar to why the Fatui established the black market first in Inazuma, or why they decided to use children not from Snezhnaya, but rather from Sumeru and Mondstadt to conduct their human experiments, because in their eyes, the House of the Hearth, which is a semi-Fontanian organization, is a threat. Furthermore, this project will threaten Arlecchino's protection of the children. If you remember, Arlecchino's coming to power may have thwarted a lot of the Upper Harbinger's plans for the House of the Hearth, especially when she denied other Harbingers from performing unethical experiments on them. Crucibina and Totoro used to have a closer partnership that allowed for the children to be literal human resources. So Arlecchino intercepting that could have stopped him from gaining scientific material. So it's possible that Rig Raider and the Rooster are trying to leverage the fact that they're funding majority of the House of the Hearth and threatening Arlecchino that if you don't let us do this, we're just going to let you all starve. However, I want to propose an alternative. The most important question here so far is why is it spearheaded by Pantalone and Pulcinella rather than Totoro specifically? If what I'm proposing is a scientific experiment, why are economists getting involved? That's actually a very important question. So I'm proposing another theory. Project Stuzha is a political project rather than a power enhancement world-ending project. This can be done by using the House of the Hearth as a diplomatic mercenary hub for external affairs similar to Tartalia's position. After all, Tartalia's stronger asset is while he is the errand boy of the Harbingers, he is the one mostly dealing with diplomatic affairs across Teyvat and the less regal work of the Harbingers like espionage, infiltration, investigation, or just cleaning up messes. Tartalia is closely involved with the Northland Bank and is the one being sent out to discuss debt collection. So Project Stuzha could just be something like that, incorporating the House of the Hearth as a bigger network under Pulcinella and Pantalone to help them extend their reach and potentially threaten the other financial ecosystems of Teyvat. This is actually something they've done in other projects. Some examples are 1. The Northland Bank being a pseudo-embassy in the Land of Commerce, 2 is Pantalone targeting the wine industry in Mondstadt, and 3 is even Pantalone's project of incorporating credit coupons in the Fortress of Meripede as a primary replacement for Mora. This would also explain why Arlecchino is attempting to remove the political background of the House of the Hearth by asking Neuvillette to assist her. This would also explain why Arlecchino is wary of both Pulcinella and Pantalone, because she feels threatened that her children will be seen as nothing more than pawns in a political game, especially when she herself seems to be aggravated by businessmen who are only in the shadows. For this one, it would make sense that Stuzha is just a codename and doesn't really have much of an impact on the actual nature of the project. Sure, this version of Project Stuzha doesn't have the grandiosity of human experimentation, but it's important nevertheless. The Harbingers are politicians first before they're warriors, some more than others. I really like that we're getting more breadcrumbs about Pulcinella and especially Pantalone the further we go into the series. So I'm excited to see what they have in store for us. Anyway, my name is Aster, thank you for chilling with me.